regular meeting of the Sonoma County Library Commission on July 9th, and call to order. I believe all commissioners are present. Is that correct? Yes. Huh? Oh. So are there, I have a couple of announcements, and then we'll open it up for anybody else to make announcements. I did want to share with everybody the good news that we heard this week. Jamie Anderson and Ken Neiman and David Ebright, Commissioner Ebright, Commissioner Garcia, and I attended a meeting with Linda Hopkins, Supervisor Hopkins, where she informed us of the fabulous news that with her efforts, the county has been able to find enough money to enter into a lease for a building in the same area as the Roseland Village will be. I think it's just a little bit to the east of where we are right now, but it will be a lease for 5 years, and they have money to do tenant improvements, including, I think, an HVAC, she said. So we are all very excited and very relieved that we will have a place for the Roseland branch while all that work is being done on the Roseland Village, and the library comes up with some funding for our part in the Roseland Village. So thank you to the Board of Supervisors, and particularly to Supervisor Linda Hopkins. So as most of you know, this is the last regular commission meeting for me, for Commissioner May, and for Commissioner Ebright, Commissioner Garcia, and Commissioner Howell. So I know we all have mixed feelings about leaving the commission, but we will leave it in the good hands of the library administration and our JPA partners to appoint replacement commissioners. I know that some of the JPA members have already made their appointment decisions, and we have in the audience, we have Stephen Zoller, who will be the new commissioner from the city of Sebastopol. So welcome, thank you for joining us. So are there any other announcements? Commissioner McKenzie.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that this is the last meeting that this particular commission will be seated together, and because I was going to thank all of you, not that I have any authority to do that, but just serving on the Library Commission is very time-consuming and challenging. It's public service at its best. It's completely volunteer and uncompensated, and the compensations are the good feelings that we have for doing what we do and making the contribution. And I, in particular, wanted to thank you as our current chair and for your service. I know you, besides this commission, you were on 2 years before on the old commission, or 4 years before?
3.5.
3.5 years. And then two terms as our chair, and as also Commissioner May, who, how many years were you on, Tim? 10 years total in the Library Commission, and 2 years, 2 terms as chair. And Commissioner Ebright, who was on how many years, David?
It'll be 5.
5 years.
Please use your microphones.
It'll be 5 years. About a year on the 7-member commission, and then was appointed to this one in 2014.
Right, thank you. And then Commissioner Howell, who joined us last year, Commissioner Garcia, who joined at the same time I did, 4 years, and also term as the vice chair. And who else is going off?
He's going off and taking my place.
I'm going off
right.
and staying on.
He's going off and staying on, so that's pretty magical. Anyway, but I do just think that publicly everyone should be acknowledged for their service and dedication, all the time that they put in, and all the good work you've done for the library. So thanks to everyone.
All right, are there any other announcements?
Yes. Yes, okay. Hi, good evening, commissioners. On behalf of the library senior management team and administrative staff, We would like to thank those of you that have served on the commission and are leaving at the end of this month for your service to the library. We really appreciate that. And as a token of appreciation, we have a small gift that we would like to present to you all. And we wish you all well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a library card. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I guess you really have to.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. So we'll move on to item 3, which is public appearances. Are there any members of the public wishing to address the commission regarding items not on the agenda? This is the time to do so. Seeing no one come forward, we will be adjourning to closed session, and I just have to say I can't give you a return time, so bear with us. Thanks.
All right.
Of the Sonoma County Library, but we're not going to be gone completely. We'll be back. So we are reconvening from our closed session, and it is 6:52. And let me follow my agenda. So as item 5.1, report on closed session. No action was really taken in the closed session except to agree to move on with the contract for our interim director. And 5.2, there was no action to report. So there you have it. So we do have a guest from the Sonoma County Public Library Foundation, Adriana Arazon, but I wasn't sure what time we would be back from closed session, so she will probably not be back until 7:15, I'm told. So when she's here, we will allow her to speak at whatever point we are at in the agenda. And 6.2, Rohnert Park Cotati Lab report. There is no presentation tonight due to the illness of the presenter, so that's going to be rescheduled for a different commission meeting. And that takes us to item 7, commission and liaison reports. So 7.1, the commissioner reports. And the commissioners who are retiring from the commission were asked to, if they had words of wisdom for the rest of the commission about their time as a commissioner and encouragement going forward to the remaining members. This is an opportunity for those members to make those statements. So I'm not sure where to start with the reports, but we could start down at Commissioner Neff, although he did a written report, and I don't know if he has anything else to add.
I have nothing to add to the written.
Okay, and then Commissioner McKenzie.
Yes, I wanted to say that I'm sure everybody's very pleased. I wrote mine up this month. So I had to add some photos, and at the last commission meeting, I mentioned that the Friends of the Library wanted a tour, and Sarah Van Trees actually picked up on that and invited the friends, and we had a great tour of headquarters. And Dave Tacheva was involved and showed everybody how the books were moved around and so forth. So anyway, that was a really neat tour. Really thank Sarah and everyone who helped us with the tour. You can see 2 photos there. I also went to 2 of the shows and at the library, and I did want to just use this as a way to comment that the programming is just top-notch. the Aztec Dancers and the Didgeridoo Player. These were just wonderful programs, and they were educational. They had cultural aspect, and the crowd was really into it. And anyway, we're just doing a super job, and I believe it's Chris Levanich that's scheduling the programming, and any other folks that are involved in that, I want to commend them. Lastly, I did want to point out at the last paragraph there on my report about doing oral interviews. We have, as I've mentioned before, a 99-year-old fantastic library volunteer, Alwyn Peterson, who is the volunteer coordinator for the Friends of the Library in Roanoke Park. And I want to get an oral interview of her because of her vast knowledge of the library. And so I've been talking to Catherine Reinhardt about trying to get a project going, and I think we can get funding from the Friends of the Library for that. So it's just something that everyone might want to think about if you have people in your library that might, an oral interview of their knowledge and experience might be a good idea. You might just want to consider that. Thank you.
Should I?
No, go ahead, Commissioner Havenridge.
Okay. The Guerneville Lab will meet this Wednesday, and I will be attending that. I also will be attending the Petaluma Lab on the 25th because I am no longer going to be, as of August 1st, the Sonoma County Supervisors Commissioner, but I'm replacing the Honorable Tim May here as the Petaluma Commissioner. So. The city council was nice enough to allow me to replace Tim, so I'll be doing that. And I just want to mention one thing. On last Saturday, the library system has a ukulele teacher that's going around different branches, and he was at the Petaluma branch, and I took a ukulele lesson with him, and it was a lot of fun. And so that's about my speed, ukulele, as far as playing an instrument. But I just wanted to mention, anybody has a chance, I think he's making the rounds, and he'll also be back in the fall, he said. So it's a lot of fun. Thank you.
Commissioner May.
I spoke to the Petaluma City Council in a farewell address of about 5 minutes a week ago today. That was saying goodbye and thanking them for appointing me for 10 years. I want to make some comments, and some of the people I want to comment to are not here. So I hope that they are spending their vacation watching the minutes of the meeting. First of all, to Jamie, I would like to thank her for her calm confidence and leadership. She's been around since I've been around, and we have a history of remembering RFID, the changeover and the freaking out about that, as to becoming acting director twice, and I appreciate that. For Vicki, I deeply appreciate what you've done for our technology. I think you've brought us close to the 21st century, and I appreciate that a lot, and particularly your service during the fire. Thank you so much. Ken, for you, I think of you as a thorough and wise professional, and calm through the storms. And I deeply appreciate what you've done to our system and for our system. Dave's not here, but it's been fun watching him do the care and planning for the refreshes and the details of taking care of our buildings. Suzanne, you have taken on a huge task, a lot of hiring, but not only the hiring, the getting our policies in order and working for us. And thank you so much. Sarah, I don't know you well enough, but thank you for coming on board. Kathy is not here, but I think I'm going to come to every June meeting just for the fun of it and see what kind of performance we get. But I think the other thing about Kathy is that she brings a professionalism that is just astounding to see, and her involvement in policies across the board. Jaylene, thank you for your warm and kind support as we go through, especially the storms we've been through, and thank you. Jane, thank you for your patient herding of cats. And I also want to give a talk out to the branch managers. I think it's not an accident that every citizen of every town thinks they've got the best library, and that's partly because of the leadership of the branch managers. And also for the rest of the staff beyond that and through, it takes more than a village to make this system work, and I have deeply appreciated watching how it happens and how you folks work. To my fellow commissioners, thank you for the time you've put in. We all know how much of work it's been, and from the time I was chair when we started to now, I have always appreciated your thoughtful thoroughness and what you bring to us. I would also like to mention 3 of what I call library heroes in the community. One of them, I think, is Bruce McDonald, who was the finance person for both Measure M and Y and acting CFO. Another is Bruce Robinson, or as he says, I think Bruce Hopkins Robinson, who oversaw Measure M and has been a strong supporter of the library through Sebastopol. And last, and I hope I can say her name right, is Linda Schlitkin, is that right, or close? Schilkin, who I don't know, I can still recall when we were trying to do Measure M, sitting on the curb outside the building here with her talking about the ramifications of a JPA putting a ballot measure on the ballot, and I think she just gave service above and beyond. In terms of the words of wisdom for the commission, having that 10-year view, we are in a much better place than we were 10 years ago. It's a very different library system. It's taken a lot of work, effort on the part of everybody, and so don't lose heart. Hang in there and keep pushing. And thank you for having been on the commission.
Thank you, David. Commissioner Ebright.
Thank you very much. A couple of things that I think are important and will remain so, and that is it is a Sonoma County library. We are each appointed by different towns and cities throughout the county, but I have not experienced from the commissioners any sort of provincialism or anything other than looking out for the library system as a whole, which I commend all of my fellow commissioners for, a very important thing. And to the staff, I would say the community supports you. Our communities believe in libraries. We saw that, I think, with the passage of Measure Y. And I see that and hear that almost every day from people who I encounter when we talk about the libraries. And to my commissioners, I would also say that we have a fabulous staff from leadership, team, all the way through. I get nothing but great service whenever I go to the library, and I go to the library quite a bit, at least once a week. And now I'd like to quote myself being quoted, if I may, and that is, I went out and listened to Kay Ryan, Pulitzer Prize winning poet laureate of the United States. Unbelievably fabulous. Unbelievably fabulous. There was time for comment and questions, and my comment was, what a coup to have you at our Sonoma library. Indeed, it was a coup. And that coup came about because of the staff who put our author series together. What a coup to have you at our Sonoma library. Gushed a patron. I encourage all of my current and new commissioners to gush about the libraries whenever you get a chance. It's a wonderful, wonderful place. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Ebright. And I'm going to skip me, and I'll speak last. And so, Commissioner Merrick.
I just want to say thank you to all the commissioners that are leaving. It's been a pleasure. Great 2 meetings. And I look forward to moving on in the future, but thank you for your service.
Commissioner Garcia.
Yeah, well, Tim May said everything I was going to say. And it has been a pleasure and a learning experience. Thank you for your dedication. thank you for your patience. And as Commissioner Ebright said, I will always be able to say, do you know what your library does for you? And how we need to continue to support the library, and how in 8 years we have to go back for more Measure Y funds. So I thank you all. I appreciate your professionalism and your patience. Thank you so much. And to my commissioners, it has been an interesting ride, and again, an education. Everything from $24 a year to keep a book on the shelf to, did you know you can download that on as an ebook, or your library is here for 24/7. Thank you all with appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hauser, you have a written report, is there? Okay. Commissioner?
I have nothing to add.
Commissioner Howell?
I've been here just a very short time fulfilling someone else's appointment, and I've learned a lot, mostly how hard the commissioners work. This is a huge job. I don't think anybody understands out there in the public or appreciates how hard the commissioners work. They're really dedicated to the staff. They're dedicated to the community. And I wish there was a way, and I hope that someone finds a way to do a better job of blowing your horn, not only for the commission, but also for the library system, because I don't think the county, the people who live in this county, have a real true understanding of how important the library system is and how hard you all work for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Fox, and you have a written report. Is there anything you wish to add?
I gave a written report, but I would like to thank those of you who are leaving for your support and your wisdom over the years. I learned a lot from you all. So thank you very much.
All right. So many commissioners, have spoken words of thanks that I can only say ditto, because they spoke so eloquently, Commissioner May. But I do, when I got on the commission, I really didn't know that much about the workings of the library. I knew I loved the library. I wasn't a lab member. I wasn't a Friends member. I just was retired from the county and really wanted to give back to the community. And it was an eye-opening experience. And watching the library while I've been on the commission, from losing hours within months of my being on the commission, losing Monday hours, and struggling with finances, and losing a director retiring and hiring another director, and the process that we've gone through in the last year to replace the last director that left. It's been extremely eye-opening, a lot of work, as others say, but fabulously, I feel so honored to be part of this and to see the workings, the innards of the library, so to speak, and how all of you have put it together with such fervor and grace and dedication. And I also might come back to see Kathy DeWeese's summer reading program show, which is always very enlightening and entertaining. Not being on the commission will give me more time to participate in activities at our local branches. And I will stay involved. I'll be on the, if you approve me, I will be on the Sebastopol Lab. And I am a lifelong member of the Friends since I was a commissioner. But the words of wisdom are that it is a lot of work. I don't think people understand how time-consuming it can be when they first get on the commission and how much there is to do. I would encourage every commissioner to have a turn at least a turn for a year at the Finance Committee, at the Advocacy Committee, at the Director Search Committee. Those appointments have to be approved by the chair of the commission, who selects the committee members, but it is eye-opening to really participate on those really important standing committees. So, and then there's numerous other activities for commissioners to partake in. So I know that the library will carry on and be even better. It's getting better, like every single day, new things happen. And as always, I can only recommend the activities report, the management activities report, that it's just a summary, really. It's not even the whole picture of what happens in the library. So it's an amazing job that everybody does. And the more people that come into the library, the more they're completely wowed by how much happens at the library. So carry on, and we'll continue on to the next item. But before we do the different committee reports, I want to give Adriana Arison an opportunity to give her report, because she wasn't sure what time we were going to come back from closed session. So we'll go back to item number 6.1, and this is the Sonoma County Public Library Foundation report. And welcome. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. I'm humbled, and I'm very pleased to meet all of you. I might forget names, but not faces, so thank you for inviting me. So I'm here essentially to make that connection between yourselves and the Sonoma County Public Library Foundation. I think it's long overdue that we establish that report, and you guys know us a little bit better, and we get to know you a little bit better as well. So I'm just going to give a brief overview about some of the activities that we have done in the past 5 years. They'll be brief, I promise. Some of them might sound repetitive, the recent ones, because the library director might have reported on some of those events or activities that we supported. So we currently have 10 board members representing the city of Santa Rosa, mostly Santa Rosa members, Sevastopol, Rohnert Park, and Petaluma. We have approximately 2,100 regular donors and to the foundation. And I say regular because some of them will just kind of support a lump sum every once in a while. Also, I wanted to give a little list of all the foundation grants to the library, and which include, some of these include the Measure Y efforts as well that we help support. So starting in 2012, we were able to support the library with over $55,000, 2013, $80,000, 2014, $142, $513, 2015, $111,000, $992. And I could keep going on into the present time. Within the past 5 years, we have contributed to the library $641,000, $408. It fluctuates a lot from year to year, and that will be kind of a segue for me at the end to probably impart your help in how can we maybe not only stabilize our contribution to the library, but perhaps increase it. That would be our goal. Let's see. In that, I would like to actually also highlight some of the recent things. As you know, with the fires, we were affected. Some of our board members were actually directly impacted, and of course, indirectly impacted. The whole entire county was impacted. Because of the fires, we know that funding priorities in the county have shifted. So typical donors that would either donate to us or will probably prioritize in the next couple of years to donate to the fire relief effort and helping stabilize families to stay in this county. So with that in mind, we're still committed to foster and strengthen the library systems that we have helped support throughout the years. One of the things that we've done is we've helped fund for a library mental health coordinator. It actually came at a very timely it came at a timely time, I want to say. I'm sure that's incorrect. But we did it for a different effort. We were trying to support the effort of a lot of the homeless and transient population, and then the fires came. So it was to support training for the staff that has to see our patrons day in and day out, so they can better support the community. On this note, I also actually want to thank you for supporting and passing a very comprehensive DACA resolution to ensure that all community members feel welcome and safe at the libraries. So thank you very much for that. So last year alone, the contribution that we made to the library served over 10,000 Sonoma County children, teens, and adults. This spring, the foundation gave $70,000 to the library to support the summer reading program and the purchasing of new digital materials in English and in Spanish. With this donation, the library was also able to purchase more than 2,000 books to distribute to teens participating in the program, and other summer reading program activities, which I think our Commissioner Chair is going to be attending and seeing soon. I think you said about the summer reading program. These educational activities include enriching events such as puppet shows, improvisational theater, music performances for children, hands-on STEAM, and life skills workshops for teens. The library also has made great strides in recent years to improve access to ebooks and other digital media to the entire community. I want to share a story that was given to me by a library staff member, and I'm very grateful for that, about a Spanish-speaking patron at the Roseland Library branch working on the adult summer reading activity log. She asked for information about books in different formats, and she was helped to download Odilo. Are you familiar with Odilo? Yeah. So it's a digital content marketplace in multiple languages featuring titles from publishers worldwide, and was showed how to navigate the app, download books onto her phone. And of course, she was excited that she can use this anywhere that she goes, even if it's not in the library. We currently, on that note, we know that the current branch at Roseland is to be demolished in early 2019. That's the information that we have. So we want to continue to support the Roseland area if we can, or if it's something that is also a priority for the commission, to establish a new and permanent home. So all the community has access to library and the benefits that everywhere else patrons have. Almost lastly, what I wanted to say is I also would like to extend an invitation, and I can send an email to someone to disseminate to you, to invite you also to support, if you want to attend, or just come by to the Chocolate and Cinemas. This is our annual fundraiser we're going to have on August 23rd at 7 p.m. at the Rialto in Sevastopol. And we'll also have a dine and donate at Mary's Pizza Shack on August 28th. And that is about the extent of my report. I just have to, I don't know if it's kosher to actually make any requests or not, but some of the asks of some of our board members are that we definitely need help with fundraising, and if any of you have any ideas or would like to come and visit us at our meetings and give us ideas to support our fundraising efforts. Most of us don't have fundraising experience. I don't think anyone but one person does. So we would welcome any help that you can offer us so we can continue to support, again, the system that we have worked so hard to build with the libraries. And also ideas for recruitment on board members. We actually still have the capacity for 5 more board members. And as you heard earlier, we have representation from Santa Rosa, Petaluma, Sevastopol, and Roanoke Park, I believe. But we don't have representation from Hillsburg, from Sonoma, from West County. We did one board member, but she left. So if you know anyone in your areas, because I believe each one of you represents different areas in the county, please send people our way. It's a wonderful place to get board experience. I'm very grateful to the foundation because they were the first ones to give me board experience as well. So, and here I am. And that's the end of my report. I don't know if you have any questions for me.
Questions, comments from the commissioners? Commissioner Garcia.
And thank you for supporting All Staff Day and for the latest park program, the park along highlighting the foundation and all that you do with the summer reading program, the chocolate and cinema, all of that. That we agree on more than the things that maybe we disagree. But the chocolate and cinema there are 25 spaces for employees to come free. And this year is the movie Grease, and a bag of chocolate and a bag of popcorn. It gives a lot of PR to the library, to the foundation, and to the Rialto Cinema that lets us come free. So think about coming to Chocolate and Cinema and have good chocolate, and it's a very positive experience. So thank you for the partnerships with parks and with the library. And I was just walking in the Gualala Point Park, and I saw, I've read Little Blue Whale. It's what it is. So thank you for all of your dedication. And the more we communicate, the better off we'll all be. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes, I just wanted to also thank you and your board for all that you do for the library, and also to mention that last year Chocolate and Cinemas was sold out, and we drove all the way out to Sebastopol and couldn't get in, so get your tickets early.
I remember that, and I am so sorry we had to turn you away.
It's all right. We just sat out and ate popcorn with Commissioner May out in the lobby and had a good old time.
Thank you. Thank you for remembering that. Yeah. Any other questions?
All right. It doesn't look like it, but thank you so much for coming to make this report. And we've talked about this possibly being a regular quarterly or something, just to update the commission on what's happening.
Yes. So you may get a different board member come in each time. I have been with the board a bit over 2 years, so I don't know the entire history, but I'm trying to learn it as much as I can. But if you do have questions and I can't answer, I'm happy to take them back as well. Anything is definitely ask, please. I'm here for that, to try and clarify anything that you might have questions about.
And I think the commission is committed to also having a liaison attend the monthly meetings, but
so I did miss part. Of course, I came in a little bit after, but I did miss part on who is leaving your commission. And yes, I know Linda is, and so another. Oh, several of you. So another big request or ask is hopefully, if not the commissioners that are already sitting on this board, but maybe the newcomers, we can engage them and try to attend our foundation. It would be wonderful. It's also another way to maintain that communication open. Mm-hmm.
And the next foundation meeting is July 18th.
Thank you so much, Linda. See, you're on top of it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we will go to item 7.2, committee and liaison reports, and 7.2.1, there is no director evaluation report. 7.2.2, the finance report is attached. Is there any thing that you wanted to clarify or comment on?
Thank you. No, it's pretty well spelled out. I did want to say that on behalf of the Finance Committee that we are very pleased to bring forward these two very important policies tonight. And we've come a long way on OPEB and on the fund balance, which we've talked about for a really long time. And so really pleased to be bringing these forward. And we thank Ken for his work on these important issues. Thank you.
And Linda, do you have anything to report from the foundation, 7.2.4?
Only that we're meeting on the 18th, and I plan to attend that meeting. And I forgot to mention the Santa Rosa Lab will meet on this month, and we are trying to encourage the Santa Rosa Lab to take the lead in the annual lab meeting. So there'll be more on that later.
Okay. 7.2.5,
Did you do 3? 7.2.
Oh, I'm sorry, 7.2.3, that is attached. Do you have anything to add to that?
No.
Okay.
Stands.
Okay. And 7.2.5, the ad hoc standard operating procedures.
There is light at the end of the tunnel, finally.
Really?
Yes, really.
When is that going to?
This week.
This week? Okay, great.
Yes.
Okay. 7.2.6, I don't think there is a new Measure Y oversight. They're coming out with a report in September. We're going to have some change up on that committee due to the departing commissioners, as the Measure Y appointee is connected to the commission who appoints that person. So Commissioner McKenzie, did you have something?
Just the intention is for the committee to meet next month.
Okay, do you have a date?
No, yeah, there's going to be a doodle poll.
Okay. Okay, so the 7.2.7 Ad Hoc Director Search Committee, we have found an interim, and we will be approving that contract later today. The search for the permanent director will continue after we've had some time to work with the interim director and get some more guidance on that. So to be continued, and that committee will be, of course, revamped due to the departures. So there is no report on 7.2.8. We have yet to set another meeting, which I don't know how that got lost. I think people didn't come up with dates. So that needs to be reinstituted. And that is just also a communication between the commission and the foundation to better understand the activities of each group. 7.2.9, the ad hoc JPA and commission bylaws review.
No report, but I did today get my stuff on a thumb drive to take on my cruise starting Sunday.
Right. Okay, so postcard updates or?
Email.
Okay. 7.2.10, the ad hoc commissioner orientation training.
I suggested to the members of the committee that we wait till the interim was on board, and I got affirmation on that. And also I am stepping off that committee since I'm not going on a cruise, but I leave on Thursday and don't get back till August.
And who is, I forget who else on that committee offhand?
Barbara and Tom and Reese.
Okay.
So
all right. Any public comments on these activities? All right. Moving on, item 8, correspondence and press coverage. Any comments about that, Commissioner McKenzie?
Oh, I just wanted to say I was reading the Sunday paper yesterday. Did you all see Chris Smith's column? It was a great little blurb in here about how a guy got his keys returned.
I did.
Did you see that?
That was great.
Yeah. Anyway, so the Sonoma County Library does lots of great things, including get people's keys returned because they had the little
library card
on his keychain.
Yeah.
So anyway, yay.
Cool. Okay, so that takes us to item 9, the consent calendar. So these are routine financial administrative actions that may be approved by consensus. Is there any commission member or member of the public that requests an item be removed from the calendar Commissioner McKenzie.
Yes, I'd like to pull item 9.2 and also 9.4, please.
Do you have technical questions or are these substantive?
Technical questions. I had some questions about I wouldn't say they're long discussions, but if you want me to talk about them now, I can.
If it's not long, if it's a kind of just a question about, but we can remove it too if you want.
Yeah. I'd like to pull them, not for a long conversation, but I think.
Okay. All right, so we'll remove them and take them down to action items by motion.
Which one were those? That was 9.2.
9.2 and 9.4.
Okay.
So the rest of the items, 9.1, regular meeting minutes and special meeting minutes, 9.3, approval of the EBSCO invoice, 9.5, approval of the lease for copiers and printers, 9.6, approve change of signers on bank accounts.
I move approval of all the consent calendar except for 9.2 and 9.4.
Second.
All right, and that was seconded by McKenzie. Okay, discussion items, so.
Wait. We have to vote.
Oh, well, it's approved by consensus. It's called the consent calendar, right?
Have to vote to approve.
Okay, a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's carried unanimously. So item 10.1, the acting director's report. Jamie is on a pre-approved vacation since prior to becoming acting director, but she wanted me to share some updates for you. Candidates have been selected to fill the second Public Services Division Manager position and the Adult Services Administrator position. Both new employees will begin on August 20th. Library Management finished its review of the Community Engagement Coordinator position and submitted a revised draft job description to the union on June 25th. She says, we hope to bring the proposed changes to the commission for approval at your August meeting so recruitment for this critical position can begin. We've been invited by the California State Library to join a statewide Immigration and Diversity Alliance Task Force. This invitation is a direct result of the State Library hearing about our DACA resolution. The task force will assist in developing a 3-year plan based on the most critical needs of our immigrant and refugee communities, utilizing current research and evidence-based practices. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled on June 27 that requiring public employees to pay agency fees violates the First Amendment. The library was expecting this and immediately worked with the union to stop deducting agency fees from bargaining unit members who were agency fee payers. A meeting with SEIU to kick off contract negotiations is scheduled for August 16th. You may be wondering about the hoopla checkout limit that took changes that took effect July 1st. Even though the limit was decreased from 10 checkouts per month to 6, please keep in mind this was after we increased the hoopla budget by 20%, despite an overall reduction of 5% in the 2018-2019 materials budget over the previous year. The growth of hoopla has been exponential month over month as new patrons discover it. We're working to serve as many hoopla patrons as possible and also to spread the budget equally across all patrons instead of allowing power users to max out the budget. It's also worth noting that hoopla uses a very different funding and checkout model than traditional library service. For example, for books, we buy a finite number of copies and circulate them using a waiting list. We don't buy 500 copies so that every person that wants that item immediately is able to get it. We want to offer the widest selection and the shortest wait times to the most patrons while also being fiscally responsible. Reducing the number of checkouts in hoopla is one strategy to accomplish this. To attempt to make up for the reduced checkouts, we are going to be exploring other strategies for satisfying our Hoopla-using patrons, such as adding a movie streaming service called Canopy, which we're all looking forward to, and bulking up our ebooks and e-audiobook collections through our other platforms. Overdrive and Access 360. The amount we will invest in those strategies is minimal compared to the amount that we would need to invest in Hoopla to go back to 10 checkouts per patron, which is unsustainable given the growth in use the service has experienced. There's also more information on this on page 62 in our agenda packet, which is in the monthly activities report. Okay, so that takes us to, if you have questions, I'm happy to take them down, and if they can't be answered, she will be back later this month.
I would just
Mackenzie had her hand up.
Sorry, just two quick things. One is that, we've really raised our awareness here about the CalPERS impact, and I did notice that we were part of the organization that has a legacy CalPERS. I don't know, this is an acting director's report, the third column down. So anyway, it looks like we're going to be responsible for some, the terminology is skyrocketing potential for this legacy organization that we're part of. And my question would be to find out roughly what we're talking about in numbers in the CalPERS that's the legacy to North Bay Cooperative Library System. Is that right? Yeah. And then my other comment is tremendous number of hires and promotions, and again, thanks to Suzanne and her staff for all that. And in particular, I wanted to point out Kate Keaton, who has done yeoman's work from everything I can tell, from managing Northwest and Roseland and then over to Central, and now she's the permanent Central, which is a really big position in our system, and I congratulate her and I thank her for all that she has done.
Okay, Commissioner May.
I just would like to say thank Jamie for not being just a placeholder, but acting as the acting director. And I especially have appreciated the emails that she's copied us on that maybe, we don't need to take any action on or anything, but just broadening our awareness of what's going on and what's happening. I've really appreciated that. And she will.
Yeah, she's excellent, and excellent for stepping up when we needed her.
Right. So again. Right, again, that's true.
Any questions about the item 10.2, the management report, the monthly activities 10.2.1? So the PERS, your PERS question, Commissioner Mackenzie, could you repeat what the question itself is?
Yeah, on the third paragraph of the acting director's report, she talks about going to a meeting of the NorthNet Library System Council, and that is a follow-up organization to a prior organization that we were part of, and there is some PERS legacy costs that we will be responsible for, and I'd just like to know roughly what we're talking about in terms of numbers.
So perhaps when Jamie gets back, we can.
Right. I briefly talked to Ken about.
Take a note of that, Jaylene, and ask her if she could, if she has the information to respond to that, and maybe send it out to all the commissioners.
I briefly talked to Ken about it today, and he thinks that this was something that the new interim could find out about also. She was part of this organization. Thank you.
Okay, so if there are no other comments or questions about the monthly activity reports, again, wildly enthusiastic about all the things that you all do. I always make little notes, and an incredible number of staff that you have been put through hiring and will start shortly, and started in May, some of them. Huh? All of them have already started? May 29th. So are you still recruiting for any of those positions? Are there still openings for extra help, or is that all?
Most of the extra help positions have been filled at this time. We are still recruiting for the librarian positions, and we have 2 branch manager positions that we are recruiting for. We are interviewing for the Northwest Roseland Library branch manager next week, and the Cloverdale branch manager position closes on the 12th. We are always recruiting or interviewing for the librarians, so that has been a difficult to fill position for us. And then we still have some library specialists, full-time positions and part-time positions that we're recruiting for that are not extra help. So we're working with the union to work on some creative hiring strategies, and that's we're working through what's called the LMC, the Labor Management Committee. I'm sure you're all familiar with that, to just work through some positive strategies. So anyway, I'm glad that that's picked up again.
Yeah, absolutely. And then your staff is also putting forms and information into the new HRIS?
Yes, the Human Resources Information System, which is, yes, that's up and coming. So it's exciting. Yeah. It's a very busy time for us.
Yeah.
And we're also recruiting a new full-time administrative assistant, because our assistant left at the beginning of June. Mm-hmm.
Right.
So.
Okay, well, it's always mind-boggling, all the things that get done here. And when I tell people about everything that's happening at the library branch, they're like, maybe I should go check that out. So that takes us... Yes. Thank you, Tim. So that takes us to the monthly financial report, item 10.2.2. Any questions or comments about that? So it looks like we have our revenue is going to be slightly bigger than it was anticipated to be with the sales tax.
When people speak at the table, could you please speak loudly and closely to the microphone? Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, the revenue is going to be higher than we budgeted for, not only in the property tax and the general fund, but also the sales tax fund. The sales tax is going to be approximately, it'll be right around 12 million. On the other side of things, the expenses, we're underspending on quite a few items. And despite all the hard work that the HR department has put into hiring people, it's been really hard to get qualified people, and there just aren't that many around. And plus, moving to Sonoma County is difficult for a lot of people also. So, but we're getting there. So we're going to have a pretty large surplus, especially in the Measure Y fund at the end of the year. The general fund should be, there should be a surplus, but it shouldn't be, it definitely won't be as large as the Measure Y fund. We've started talking with the finance committee and also internally with the management team to come up with some large items, we're just saying over $25,000 that we may want to put forward to the commission in the next few months to spend some of the surplus from the Measure Y for this year. And so if any of you all have thoughts about that, please send I guess Barbara and I an email on those types of things, where I'm trying to get them all combined and get them to the finance committee. We need to talk about them at the management team with the new interim director. So it'll probably be, I'd say September or October before we don't want to wait too long, because some things take a while to get done. But we want to get some ideas out there and how we can spend some of that surplus. And so I guess that, unless anyone has any specific questions, that's my report.
Commissioner McKenzie, did you have something?
I appreciate the invitation for everybody to submit their ideas. The Finance Committee will meet next Monday, and we will have our second discussion about the surplus funds. And so if you could email us this week, it would be great.
All right, thank you. So any comments from the public on any of the items we've just covered? All right, so thank you, Ken, and thank you, Suzanne. Commissioner Garcia, you had something?
I just want to say, earmark some money to move Roseland from its temporary position to the 5-year warehouse. That's going to cost some money. Earmark some money for that. Thank you so much.
All right, so that takes us to action items by motion. Should we take the item 9.2 and 9.4 first? Commissioner McKenzie, item 9.2, you requested that this be taken, and that is approval of discrimination and harassment. Okay, so this is approval of discrimination, harassment, and retaliation prevention policy. The recommended action is to approve this item. So what is your comments?
This may sound like a silly question, but in the very first paragraph of the policy, it says the library will consider any report of harassment, discrimination, retaliation, or false accusation to be deserving of investigation. And I'm just wondering if that means the same thing as any will be investigated. I see a lawyer at the other end of who's nodding his head. So that language means the same as will be investigated.
So can I clarify that?
Yeah.
So deserving of investigation and the level of investigation may be two separate things. So because we need to take all complaints seriously.
Right.
So if somebody makes a complaint, it doesn't necessarily mean, we're going to call in the full level of investigation, but I need to take the complaint and look into the matter, but not necessarily, conduct a full scope investigation with I just need to find out more who, what, where, when, why, and deem what level of investigation needs to incur. But I can't just go, yeah, and not take the matter, seriously.
Well, I agree that obviously we need to investigate or look into every allegation or every, issue. I'm just wondering whether that language implied that or not, because it's deserving investigation, but, we got to decide whether we're going to actually investigate or not. It just seemed a little soft in terms of what we were going to do.
Right, but the difference between the policy and the procedure on how you do it is this is the policy, and then the procedure is something that is, we write something separately. So this is just an overall governing policy that the organization is going to have, and a commitment to having this policy, and then how we actually, what the steps that we take are separate, and that's not something that's approved by the commission. So we just need to have an overall statement of how we conduct ourselves as an agency.
Right. Okay. Well, if everybody's comfortable about that, I'm fine with it. Like I said, I just thought it wasn't quite confirming enough that we were going to investigate every allegation. I also was wondering on page 4 of 10, which I guess is also page 24, it said any worker who observes others engaging in harassing or discriminating behavior towards another employee shall report the actions to a supervisor or manager, even if the person harassed does not complain. And I was wondering about the consequences of not doing that. Just don't seem to be spelled out.
Well, you can't necessarily, discipline an employer. This isn't about disciplining. This is basically, we're trying to promote prevent harassment, discrimination, and retaliation from occurring. So you don't want to say something like may, but we want employees to basically prevent this from occurring in the workplace. So if an employee sees something, despite the fact that that employee doesn't complain, we want employees to basically make steps to because that employee may not feel comfortable making a complaint, but employees that see something and then don't take steps to prevent it basically are allowing that inappropriate behavior or conduct to occur. And I would like to make one caveat here that this, we want this policy to go through as an agency, but we're also working with the labor union to make some reviewing it. So we may bring this back at one point in time, but delaying the implementation of this policy makes us out of compliance. So while we may bring it back in the future to be revised or modified, not having a policy in place is a bigger problem. So we really need to move forward. And last month when we brought this forward, the only thing that needed to be revised was that I left like harassment and retaliation off of it, and I put my name instead of the HR department. So while I appreciate all these comments, we are going to continue to work with LMC to refine a couple of these matters. So, but still, I do want to vet these matters, and I'll take notes of these.
Okay,
I just am concerned because the policy hasn't been updated since 2005.
I'm all for moving forward. I'm all for confirming it tonight. I just, had a couple of issues. And I'll just ask one more.
Sure.
And that is on page 5 of 10, Human Resources C. It says the records will be, complaints will be maintained for a minimum of 10 years unless in conflict with library destruction records. I think there's something missing there. It must be library policy on destruction of records or something.
Oh, which paragraph are you?
C, Human Resources.
Oh, yeah, it might say the library's records destruction policy. Okay, so I can change that when I bring it back.
And at some point in time, I'd like to see the library's destruction of records policy, because I don't think we ever know what it is.
Okay. We do have a records. Okay, yeah, with a records retention schedule.
Great, thank you.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to move approval of the discrimination, harassment, and retaliation prevention policy as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Aye.
All right. Unanimous.
Thank you.
And Hauser, and who seconded? Oh,
Garcia.
You just want to go home.
Yeah, we're going to hear about Baker.
Okay, so that takes us to item 9.4, approval of Baker and Taylor invoice. So this, the recommended action is to authorize the acting/interim director to approve the expenditure of $58,857.64 to Baker and Taylor. And Baker and Taylor is the company that we lease our books from. So you had a question, Commissioner McKenzie?
Yeah, just briefly, and I forgot that Jamie wouldn't be here this evening. I would just like some more information. I think this is a wonderful idea. I think we all do, leasing books instead of buying extra copies and then giving them to the friends to get rid of later on. I think this is a great idea. I'd just like to have a little more information about what the policy is and how many, books it affects and, that kind of stuff. So that was just my request, and I thought Jamie would be here, so maybe she can update us next month. Thank you.
I think, as I recall, her plan was to give us a report after we've had this in place for some time to talk about how well it's doing, because I think we approved, or we were told about the plan to do this Baker and Taylor rental of books a year ago, approximately.
Yes.
And I have mentioned to her that it would be great to have a brief report on how it's functioning. And I don't recall that we've had that yet, because I didn't think we'd had time to really evaluate it. But we still have to pay for what we've used.
Correct. I'm just going to put this out there that this is a commonly accepted practice across library systems nationwide. So the idea here, of course, is to make copies available serendipitously so that when you walk in the library, you don't have to wait 6 weeks to place for a hold item. And so this is to help the holds ratio to meet the holds ratio that we have set out for the library system. And these programs are stellar for doing that, so that, and I'll use Harry Potter as an example. Those Harry Potter books, for a while there were just, you couldn't check one out because they were always gone. In a library system that I worked in, we had this big splash for a Harry Potter midnight launch. And so we leased 650 copies of one of the Harry Potter titles for a large system like this one, so that each one of the branches that were having the midnight launch could, in fact, have enough copies available for the people that attended the midnight launch. So the idea there, I think, is that, we want to make sure that we are doing what we promised and not ending up with assets that we are kind of stuck with. So I don't know if that helps to understand the why of it, but...
Well, I think we get the why. We all think it's a good idea. I just wanted some more detail about it, and possibly even whether this saves money. I mean, it might. But anyway, I agree with the chair that, we just haven't had time to have a report. So again, I just was bringing this up because I thought Jamie would be here tonight.
Right, and I think one of the ways that it does save money is if you think about, first of all, the items come shelf ready, so there's not a lot of touching of them. And then second of all, when the popularity wanes, there's a whole process of decommissioning them from the system. And if you took that hourly rate of the employees that have to withdraw them and then withdraw them from the shelf, all of those things, there are business costs associated with that. And there's still going to be some withdrawal, but then actually returning them. And, if you added up all the volunteer hours for Friends and things like that, again, time is money. And so, again, there are some real costs and cost savings, I believe.
Yes, thank you. And I see that Commissioner Garcia had wanted to say something.
Very briefly, I believe that Jamie explained this to us, and this was also one of the selling points for Measure Y. And in the end, it will save us time and money. And so that's what I have to say about that. I've heard the explanation before. Thank you.
Commissioner Foxen?
Also, I heard today, and Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, but because of things like this and the money for Measure Y and this kind of arrangement, our hold ratio has gone down from 6-to-1 to 4-to-1. So it's enabling books to get out faster.
Right. Commissioner Hauser, you had something?
I want to move approval of the Library Commission, that we authorize the acting interim director to approve expenditure of $58,857.64 to Baker and Taylor for lease books.
Second.
Okay, any discussion before we vote? Anything else? Okay. Did you have something, Commissioner Heavener? Okay. Oh, aye. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Okay. That takes us to item 10, discussion, sorry, 11. And this is 11.1, election of commission officers. So we have our bylaws call for us to elect the new officers each year, and they call for us to do this election in July, and that the new officers will take their seats in the first meeting in August. So we have kind of started a new process. In the past, it was unclear how officers were nominated, or unclear how they were nominated. So we do have. So the suggestion was made this time that people who are interested could self-nominate by putting a written description of what they want to see accomplished, why they're qualified for chair, and what they want to see accomplished. So we have two commissioners who did that, Commissioner Neff and Commissioner McKenzie, And I also want to,
No.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Neff and Commissioner Foxen. Good thing you're paying attention. And, but because that was a new and just a suggested process, I also wanted to open it up to find out if there are any other verbal nominations for the position of chair, and then we'll do the position of vice chair also. So just checking, because this isn't written in stone, it was just a suggestion on how to do this. Are there any other nominations? And seeing none, I'm not exactly clear on how to do this, because with two people. So do I have a motion to?
So, like, I so move that Barbara McKenzie be the vice chair?
Okay, I'm sorry, let me find where I am in here. So the motion is we're doing, first we're doing chair.
Vice chair. Oh, we're doing the chair first?
We're doing chair. Draft motion number 1 is for chair. Do I have a motion?
I move that the Sonoma County Library Commission elect to the position of chair Commissioner Foxen to serve through July 31st, 2019.
I second.
All right. Any discussion?
This is just to nominate, correct?
No, this is actually, I think,
this is to
saying yes or no.
appoint as chair. And the motion is on the table to appoint Commissioner Foxen as chair. So I went back and looked at procedures, and it says that after the motions are there, if there is any discussion, but if there's no discussion soon after motions are made, then we can vote. So I'm sorry.
If you vote for Reese and she gets 6 votes, then she's elected.
Right.
So if you don't want Reese, you have to vote no.
Correct.
Okay. Just want to make sure everybody understands.
All right. All in favor of Reese as chair of the commission? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's 6. So Commissioner Foxen, Commissioner, was it Howell? Did you vote yes?
I did.
Okay. Hauser? Nope. McKenzie, Heaven Ridge, May, what's your name again? Right. Okay. I didn't vote. So there's 6 votes for Commissioner Foxen. And are there nay votes? Commissioner Hauser, Commissioner Garcia, Commissioner Merrick, and Commissioner Neff. And I'm abstaining, so.
Okay.
So did you get the names of the no votes? Okay, so Hauser, Garcia, Merrick, and Neff. All right, so congratulations. So let's move on to vice chair. Do I have a motion?
I move that the Sonoma County Library Commission elect to the position of Vice Chair Commissioner McKenzie to serve through July 31st, 2019.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Howell seconds. Any discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And I am abstaining also. So there are 10 ayes. Everybody voted aye, and I'm abstaining. So congratulations, Commissioner McKenzie.
She doesn't say congratulations to Commissioner Fox.
So that takes us to 11.2, approval of the OPEB policy. Oh, and you're there. Okay. So are there any comments or questions? This has come before the commission a couple of times, and the changes have been made.
Right. It's been through the Finance Committee quite a few times, different iterations. And the main thing was to incorporate the two recommendations from the ad hoc OPEB committee. And you can see those on page 80 under number 1 and number 2 of the regulations. Deposit the $3 million from the fund balance into the OPEB trust over a 2-year period at a rate of $750,000 every 6 months. And then deposit $750,000 annually into the OPEB trust for 10 years from the operating budget beginning in 18-19. We've included that 700 under number 2. We've included that 750 in the operating budget, and we will, if approved, we'll put the 1.5 million from number 1 out of the fund balance.
Oh, Commissioner McKenzie?
As the chair of the Finance Committee and also the Commission's liaison to the OPEB committee, I would like the honor of moving that the Sonoma County Library Commission approve the OPEB policy as presented.
I second.
I have a comment.
All right.
We talked about how to spend surplus. I would be willing to increase the amount here if we have surplus, especially when we don't know what this liability is going to be going forward. It may be growing substantially. So
right.
I think that should be in the mix of possible use of surplus.
And I think the commission, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think that is part of the policy. If I'm not mistaken, when I read item 3 under regulations, thereafter continue with a funding approach that is appropriate to both its circumstances and long-term sustainability. Carefully evaluating.
I wasn't suggesting to change it. I was just suggesting that we need to include this in our consideration in the Finance Committee.
We'll add it to the list.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Commissioner May.
This is sort of aside, but I think it would be useful if perhaps the Finance Committee or somebody write a brief summary of the history of how we have tried to meet this obligation over the years, the approaches that we've used, and how we've come to where we are now, so that it doesn't get lost in institutional memory. And so when we receive, especially since we've had the grand jury report on these issues, that we have a nice, succinct statement of what we have done and what we're planning on doing. And, you know, like, for example, I had forgotten about the OPEB advisory committee, but the fact that we are confronting this and dealing with it, I hear from people in the community that we're not doing that. So I'd like to have a piece of paper that says, look, here's what we're doing and have done.
I think that's a good idea. And I would just also like to say I also was on the OPEB committee. So I take very great pride in the fact that we have come a long way from the time I first started on the commission, where we struggled to even have any OPEB policy, and it was a struggle to get the agreement on that. And I also wondered, Ken, what you think it might be a good idea if we send a copy of this approved policy to the grand jury as a follow-up, and I can work with you on that. But it would be nice
and
to
our
let them know.
appointing bodies.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Okay.
It's an excellent idea. Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
It's time for,
yes. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Did anybody second it?
You did get a second.
Okay.
The second was made by Linda Garcia. All right, so we've approved the OPEB policy. Mark that off the list. And that takes us to approval of the revised fund balance policy, another long-term goal.
Right. We've been talking about this for a while, and then when Measure Y passed, we thought we should wait to see what that did to our cash needs on an annual basis and how much fund balance we would need. The other thing that, passing that OPEB policy definitely affects the fund balance, so we wanted to analyze all the numbers to make sure we were still in good position. So what this did is, prior to this, we had on page 2, we had the fund balance should be maintained at a minimum of 12.5%, and we changed that to 15%. And then on page 86, which is page 2 of the policy, it split the that minimum fund balance of 15% into 2 pieces: the stabilization fund, and which is the emergency reserves, and the counter-cyclical reserves. So we made those each 7.5%. We also took out some references to the Sonoma County supervisors that were in here before. And then on page 93, you'll see the numbers, which are much more easily for me to understand than words. But I wanted to start out at a reference, and I just went back. We can point to the June 30th, 2017 fund balances in our audited financials. And the left-hand columns, if you looked at our audited financials, that's what you would see. The right-hand column is changing the mix of the fund balance to incorporate the 2 changes: the OPEB trust, the OPEB policy, and then the stabilization fund, jumping it up to 15%. And as you can see, after these 2 things still went on, we still had an unassigned fund balance way down there at the bottom of almost $2 million. And as we discussed before, this fund balance is just going to go up after this year. A lot of it is restricted in the Measure Y line item, but there will be, as I said, some general fund surplus that will bump up that $1.9 million. So this is all to show that by implementing both of these policies, we're still in pretty strong position financially.
Excellent. Thank you. I know you put a tremendous amount of time and effort into both of these, and it's really, really appreciated. And I think the employees probably appreciate it too.
Yeah, so I agree. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Before we move on, I have one thing I'd like to call attention to in this.
Would you tell us what page you're on?
I'm on page 87 of the packet, page 3 of the ballot. I want to talk about 4.1.1.3. And that is the stabilization counter-cyclical reserves must begin to be restored within 24 months of their first use, and the library director shall present a plan to the Library Commission for the restoration after 18 months of its use. My memory is that we did, this is back in the old commission, that we did use the counter-cyclical reserves and that we didn't pay them back. And so partly because the financial situation continued to be dire and we couldn't do it. So my question is that it looks like this is up to the director to police, but I'd like to be sure that the commission, this finance committee, and the CFO do pay particular attention to that and that it doesn't fall through the holes. Okay, through the cracks.
Given the last 2 motions, I would like to say, since I've been on the commission, having a hardworking finance committee has paid off, as well as having Ken here and his team. And, part of our strategic plan is to find sound financial footing. And I feel like with these two motions, we're doing that, and that with the structures and people that we have in place, we're also doing that. So I just want to thank Ken and his staff, and then also the Finance Committee for the work they've done. Thank you, Barbara. Especially Commissioner McKenzie, absolutely.
Okay, yes, and your recollection is correct. That has been outstanding for a long time. That was never repaid, and there was no plan made. So, yes, the commission needs to stay on top of that and can do that with the help of the Finance Committee.
Right.
All right, so that takes us to 11.4, approval of legal services agreement and appointment of general counsel. Did you want to talk about this item, Ken?
Sure. Back in, I don't know if it seems like it was around February, we voted on a new contract with for the general counsel with Burke, Williams and Sorensen. Since then, there has been some issues about conflict of interest and things like that, and they've let us know that they no longer want to be our general counsel. They are counsel for HR matters and contract negotiations. So we are in need of a new general counsel being appointed. It was requested that staff come to this meeting with a recommendation. Ann Keck helped us out during that time of conflict of interest, and we have a current contract with her that is fairly broad, and so we, in terms of expedience and everything else, we wanted to make sure we had a general counsel in place, so we are recommending that we have a contract with her. She gave us a new contract, which is in the commission packet for you all to approve. And I think that's about it. All I have to say, I don't know if there's any questions.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes, comment. I would suggest that the only thing about this contract is I believe that the term being 3 years is maybe not the best, and my suggestion would be that we change the term of the contract to 6 months, given the fact in the next 6 months we'll have probably 2 changes in the director position and be reevaluating, the activities of the commission, the library, and there'll be a lot of reassessment going on. This could be a renewable 6-month contract, but I'd feel a lot more comfortable if we limited the term in light of, the next 6 months of a lot of reassessment going on. We do have an existing contract with her, and as I guess Ken pointed out, it's a pretty broad contract, so obviously we need general counsel. And, we have an existing situation where we have general counsel right now. But if next month staff could bring this back with just the revised term being 6 months rather than 3 years, that's my suggestion.
Any other comments?
Does staff have a comment about that?
I'm sorry,
sorry.
Commissioner Garcia.
I believe, I cannot speak for the staff, and I'd like to hear from the staff, that they need more than a 6-month commitment, and they need some stability. And for something like this, so 6 months is too short, and of course I would acquiesce to the staff who have to work with this.
Commissioner May?
That was my question, does staff have a sense of why this 3 years and et cetera?
Well, they have recommended that this be approved.
Right.
It's either way, we can make it happen. If it is 6 months, we can reevaluate it after that. And if things are going well, then we can continue the contract. There's also an out clause in this contract somewhere.
It's terminable on 30 days' notice, I think. Somewhere.
Yeah, the library under 7A, the library can terminate the agreement at least 10 days written notice. So we could if we wanted to. It all depends on the commission. You are the ones that appoint the general counsel. We can work with anybody. If we wanted to go out and get another RFP like we did before, that may be kind of cumbersome if we have a 3-year contract. There's lots of goods and bads both ways. Right now, we've got a few things that we're having Ms. Keck look at. Let's see, over the last year, we looked at the items, and about 75% of the items were non-employee related items. This year, we expect that to flip just because we're having union negotiations. There were things like ADA issues with patrons, what else? I can't remember them all. I should have brought that. The facilities, different things with the facilities. We're working with her right now on a facility issue at the annex. So there are different things that come up, and they're pretty varied sometimes, and that's the hard part.
Commissioner Heavenridge?
So we have been working with her as our current general attorney now for a while, and has there been any issues? Does the staff feel, I would assume, since this is the staff's recommendation, that you feel comfortable working with her, and the 3 years, because we do have the out clause, there wouldn't be a problem. And I think if it's 6 months, we don't know if we will actually have a permanent director in place in 6 months. So to change, to me, to change our attorney right when a new director is starting to come in, would be an issue. So.
I mean, I had the same question about the term of it, to be honest with you, at the beginning, but I also saw the 10-day out clause as a way to, get out of it. If we weren't happy, or if we thought we needed, more expertise in a certain area. But so far, she's been able to answer all the questions we've had. She's somewhat acted as our general counsel in absence of one for the past few months. Her current contract is fairly broad, that it allows us to take other issues to her, so that's why we've been doing that.
Commissioner Foxen?
What if we did it for a year? 6 months, okay, a year, and I'm just throwing this out. Instead of the 3 years, it's kind of a...
I'd be comfortable with the out clause. I don't see 6 months, 3 years, a year. I would like to advocate for the stability of 3 years. And then if there's any disservice or she seems inadequate, there's the out clause. I don't see a hindrance as the length of the contract. And I would like the stability of a general counsel.
Have we had a motion yet?
Yeah, do we have a motion?
So move as written.
For this. Second.
Commissioner Garcia, second. Any more discussion before we take a vote?
I just wanted to explain my reasoning on this. We have a interim coming in with a lot of experience and And for example, she might have a very different opinion about the kind of general counsel we need. I don't have any idea. And also the new director coming in, the same thing. I think if the decision would be made to do an RFP like we did before, which is how we got Burke, it was very awkward to be doing an RFP when you have a 3-year contract with an existing. I just think, the feeling is, it's awkward. And that's my reasoning, and obviously no one else agrees with me, so that's fine, but I just wanted to bring it up, and
okay,
that's where I was coming from.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion. We're going to take a vote now. All in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed?
I guess I'll vote no since I brought it up.
Okay, so Commissioner McKenzie is the lone no vote. All right, so that takes us to the 11.5, approval of the employment agreement for the position of interim director. Do I have a motion?
I move that the Sonoma County Library Commission approve the employment agreement for the position of interim library director of the Sonoma County Library.
Nice second.
Oh, she got there first. All right, any discussion? Commissioner McKenzie, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, unanimously approved. So I was told that she was going to be watching our meeting, so congratulations. All right, so there are no action items by resolution. There are no lab appointments, item 13. And what items shall be included in the commission notes?
I'd suggest a thank you to all the retiring commissioners, maybe a little blurb about each one.
The interim director and the approval of OPEB and approval of legal services and the fund balance.
Okay, that ought to keep you busy, Jane. All right, so if you have thoughts on agenda items for future commission meetings, you can put them forward. I have been in discussion with our new interim director, and we hope to set a meeting up so that the new commission chair will be involved in working on the agenda for August. So that will be sometime after the 16th, because your first start date is the 16th. All right, so the date of the next regular meeting is Monday, August 6th at 5:30 p.m. here in these chambers. And we are adjourned by acclamation at 8:25.
Can't we talk about something else for a while?
Thanks for being on the commission.